Right, so let's have a look at the Snow Blower Cowling. 8mm thick steel, welded all the way around, and all dimensions outside. So, there's quite a lot going on here, there's a few bits and pieces. So let's start with this squared around. So I'm actually going to draw this in individual pieces and then join it together later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this 3 meter by 3 meter by, which is going to end up at 450 long, squared around here, and the diameter of this bit is going to be, looks like we've got a radius of 1300, so it's going to be 2.6 meter diameter. So let's go to a new sheet metal, and start a sketch. So let's do the square, which is 3 meters by 3 meters. Finish that sketch there. Now I'll do an offset plane, and I'll just highlight the origin of this one, and that was 450. And let's just have another look, make sure it's centralized. So the center of the squared around, it doesn't say anything about it here. I believe it's central, looking at it. Looks like a symmetrical squared around, so we'll go with that. And what I think it's telling us here is that the second radius, where this curves out, starts 225 up, and then it's 1525 radius there. So just have another quick look. No, it looks fine, so I'm assuming it's center. So I'll start a sketch on that offset plane. I will then just do a circle, and the diameter is, if I go back, smallest radius there is 1300, so it's 2.6 meters across, 2600. Now I will come out, I'll turn this plane off, and we'll set the thickness to 8mm. So let's unclick that and just put 8mm. And we'll do a lofted flange, and that one to that one. Now we're talking about outside dimensions, so we'll just flip this inwards. And we could leave it like that, or we could smooth it out. I think, no, that'll do. We'll leave it like that. And the next thing I need to do is we'll just rip it there and there. No, we won't. What we'll do is we will go back to the sketch here and edit the sketch. I'm just going to draw a construction line in, and I want to make it go past these two bits here. So it's 8mm thick, so I'll just put 8 past there, 8 past there, and it looks like it needs one more constraint, so I'll go horizontal, this end point to the origin point, and it's still saying it needs one dimension, so let's just go auto dimension, see what happens. Apply. Done. So yeah, so I just need to know it's in the middle of it. So that's fine. I'll set that dimension. And I will turn that sketch back on. And all I want to do that for is I'll get a point, and I'll just find the end of that line. Where it touches there. And same thing over here. Roll that back down. And now I should better do a point-to-point rip. So rip face is there, point to point, here to here. And just type in 0.1. And I'm going to split it down the other side as well. We'll go back to rip this face. And change this to point, there to there, 0.1 again. Now I will turn off everything I don't need to see anymore, so I'll turn these off. I will turn the sketch off. And if we go to create flat pattern, we should get a half pattern here. It's taking a bit of time because it's quite a big piece, so that's your pattern. Go back to your folded parts. So, alright, so we've got one bit done. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to have to make, no I don't, there it is there. I'm going to call that the main transition. Alright, so I'm going to close out of that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the front bit. So I'm going to just go to sheet metal again and start a sketch. Anywhere on here is good. And you can see we've got a 1300 radius here, and then a 1525 at 225 up. So let's go into here and we'll draw this at 2600. And let's draw another circle at 1525 times 2, so I can actually just type that in. Times 2, hopefully that works. There we go. And that was at a distance of 225. And let's just double check that. Yep, 225 up. Right, so what we can see here is there's a hole, so a little radius 100 hole, so let's put that in as well. 100 diameter, I believe. Let's just double check. 100, so it's a 200 diameter hole. Let's just change that, correct that. Oh, didn't like that because I accidentally put a little apostrophe thingy in there. And you can see the outside circle is blue, so it's not quite constrained, so it's not vertically constrained to the origin. So let's do that. And there we go. Now we need to put the line in, which I'm assuming just comes straight across. I will vertically constrain that as well. And let's go back to the picture. So it looks like it goes straight up like that, so I'm happy with that. Let's go back to this and trim off the bits I don't need. So I don't need this bit, and I don't need this bit. So now I've got the face there, we've got the two radiuses that meet up quite well, and it's like a bit of a spiral sort of thing. So now what I can do is go finish sketch and change my sheet metal defaults to 8mm again. And turn this into a face. So here we go. 8mm face. Cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this one. Save it as face will do. Then I'm actually going to use this piece to draw what would be sort of the back of this bit. So there's going to have to be a bit of a blanking off plate there. So all I'm going to do that is I'm just going to start another sketch on this and do a circle here to here. And I'm just going to cut this middle bit out. And that would be like a backing plate you'd weld around the back. So we'll call this I'll call it the backing plate. That'll do. Now, have another look at this. So we've got to remember these are all outside dimensions here. So this bit here itself is 600. So I've drawn the whole face to the outside. So probably you'd do like a fillet weld in the corner there. So I should probably trim back these two faces, which is something I might do. But just to keep in mind this wrapping bit here, so it's 600, but when we go overall, we're going to have to take those two metal thicknesses off it. So it's going to be 584. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into this, and I'm just going to go back a few steps, if it'll let me. It won't let me, but oh well. So what I'll do is I'll go delete this face, and I will untick these so I won't delete the sketches. And I'll delete this cut because I don't need it anymore. And consume sketches, yeah, that should be fine. And back to my original sketch, so I'm going to edit that. And take out things I don't need that, and I don't need this. And go to finish sketch, so that's the profile of the wrap there. So what I'm going to do is do another plane offset from this one, and 584. And I'll do another sketch here on this one. So I've said this a few times before, but Inventor can get quite fussy if you just project the geometry. So I'll do that first, but I would always recommend that you draw over top of it again. Just because Inventor sometimes is a bit funny about projected geometry. So I just did two arcs over top and I could snap to all those points. So now I'll go finish. And now we should be able to do a loft from profile to profile. So we don't want to output a solid. We want to output a just like a face. So let's have a look. See if we can do loft. Doesn't want to do loft. What we may be able to do here is if we go to 3D model, might be able to do an extrusion. No, it's not happy with that either. So what I might do then is I'll just go back and I will edit these sketches and I'll fill them in. Fill that in. and I'll fill this one in. And let's try again. Sheet metal, lofted flange, here to here. And now it's happy. So I'm just going to have to cut a bit out of it afterwards. So I'll go smooth, and remember this is all outside sizes. We want it to go inside it. So it's going inside here. Okay. And there was some sort of issue with that. Let's have a quick look. What's going on here? So I was trying to do some sort of crossover there. So, right, so this video is going to be a bit confusing, but we'll get there eventually. We'll go into the 3D model mode and we'll extrude it. And we'll go to the other work plane. Excuse me a minute. I'll go back. I'll go to extrude. I'll click on this side and we'll go to this plane here. We'll just make it a solid. So I'll turn that plane off and that sketch off. And what I'll do here is I will use the shell feature, and we want it to be 8mm thick. And all I'll do is I'll shell out all these sides here. So I should be left with a coil, 8mm thick. Okay. And I'll turn off the things I'm not using. So that's the shape we want. If we go back to sheet metal and just change these defaults. So it's on 8mm, so that's alright. It may or may not work with a flat pattern here, but it's not a hard one to just draw anyway. So it did work with the flat pattern, so that's pretty good. So we'll call that the wrap. Alright, so now there's another little squared around here. So it's got all the dimensions on it, so we just need to draw that one. We'll close out of this and start a new sheet metal again. And change it to 8mm. Start a sketch on any old plane. Center 2-point rectangle, and we have, it's 450 by 600. So we'll go 450, 600. So there's the base. Zoom back out. Do another offset plane, and I'll just double check it. It says it's 300mm long, so we'll use that. And let's draw the circle on this upper plane here. So let's just check the dimensions there. We've got a 400 diameter circle, so radius 200. It is up 50 and across 100. So just randomly place it there, 400. And let's do dimension from these 2 points. It's up 50 and across 100. So you can see it does look a little bit different to the drawing. It looks like it's flat there, but it actually pokes up a little bit. So say it's 200 to there, and then 50. So that's 250. it's 50 mil down. Right, so let's have a little bit of a change here. It should be minus 50. Actually, didn't want to work, so I'll delete that. And looks like it's negative 50. Let's just have another look at this. Now we've got 200 to the center from the edge, so we'll just use that one. And not too sure what it's meaning by this one, but we'll use that. So we'll go 200 from dimension there to. Oh, I need to project this from geometry first, so I'll project that line. Now I'll dimension it. There to there, it says 200. So that looks a bit better. And that there, so why is that 25? I'm not too sure at the moment. Let's have a quick look. So we've got 450, 600, 400 diameter, 400, 600, 450. So it looks like they've dimensioned this wrong, or that's not supposed to be the center or something like that. Not 100% sure what's going on, but I'm quite happy with the way that looks, so I'm going to stick with that. And I'm just going to go finish sketch. Now I'll make sure this is on 8mm, which it is. Go to lofted flange, pick these two, and just check that it's going to the inside because they're working to outside dimensions here. So flip that round, and that looks good to me. Right, so I'm just going to tidy this up. I'm going to turn this work plane off. And for this one, because it's offset two ways, I am just going to rip it down one side and we'll just do a whole pattern rather than having two different halves. So we'll see what it thinks about doing that initially. So this is the face and that's the point. So generally if it's not like a straight up and down squared around, it goes off on an angle like that, which isn't really practical in real life. So it pays to just put a point down the middle, just straight down from that one. So you can do that by just chucking a line on, grabbing that point, going straight down, and you don't even have to finish at any point there. You can just go up to the point and you should be able to, where they match, maybe not. Right, let's go back to the sketch then. Project the geometry of the base here, and now we should be able to, because it's intersecting a line. So go to point. Well, it's being a bit difficult. Let's go back to edit the sketch, and what I'll do is I'll trim it to the edge there. So now I should be able to pick up on that point on the end. Sometimes you've got to just try a few different things to get what you want. So that worked. I've got a point there. Now I can rip it sensibly along that face. So I can do there, there. Change this to 2 point, point to point, and there. And just do a very small split right there. And so there we go. There's that little squared around that comes out the top. And let's just go create flat pattern. Yep, that looks pretty good to me. And then we'll go to the folded part. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that. and I'll call that the exit squared around. Right, and I just did notice that I've left a point on there. Always pays to sort of tidy these up as you find them, because by the time you get to the assembly, you may have a whole bunch of things, excuse me, a whole bunch of things sticking out that you don't necessarily need. So I'm just going to close out of that. What I'm going to do is what I was talking about before, is I'm just going to trim back the edges of these bits so we could do a fillet weld. So I'll do a sketch on the face of that. I'll project the geometry there, that and that, and I'll do an offset of 8. Well, type in 8. And I'm just going to close those loops off by going line straight up there and doing another line from here to here. I'll finish that, and then I'll just cut that thickness off it. I should be able to hover over it. So there may be some sort of error here. Let's have a quick look. Right, so it's not picking up on it, so let's just have another look at that. I think there's possibly something to do with down the bottom here. No, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So what we might need to do is just draw a couple of arcs here, just to have something solid, or we can just draw a big circle over the whole thing. So I'll do that. So we'll do that. Any random size is good, as long as it covers everything. And let's see if we can cut that and add that little bit. No, we can't. Okay, so I'll rethink this. Let's go back. Back to here, back to the start. Let's start a sketch on this. And I am just going to actually redraw the thing. So I'm going to project the geometry, and I'm going to go here to here. I'm going to go here to here. Then I'm going to trim, and then I will offset off that one there. So hopefully it's happy this time. Let's go offset off this whole thing. Seems alright. Let's go there to there. Let's try 8mm there. And close it off, and hopefully that works. Same thing up here. Now hopefully we can pick up on that. If it's not being too difficult. I just saw it do it then. There you go. So sometimes if you're cutting a tiny little bit off, it can be a bit fussy. You got to hover the mouse in the exact right spot, but it does do it. There we go. So I've just cut 8mm off. So that's going to be a fillet weld now. So I'll just Control S, save that one. And I've got to do that backing plate as well. So I'll open that one up. And I'll just grab this one. I will draw the outside circle. And I will dimension this. It was 1525 times 2, so 3050. And it was 225 up from here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, first I'll just check why this isn't black. Okay, it's not quite lined up, so let's just constrain that. And I'm just going to do an offset of 8mm here. And I'm not going to bother trimming it up. I should just be able to cut the whole outside ring like that. And now we've cut it back for a fillet weld. So now all we have to do with this one is a bit of assembly. So it's a little bit on the tricky side, but we should be fine. So let's go to new standard millimeter, and let's place the biggest part of it, wrong folder. This is the Snow Blower Cowling, the main transition. Let's place that. And we will change the view so we can see it better to shaded with edges. Now it doesn't really matter what way around this thing is. I'm just going to put it around whatever way it falls. So I'll go here and I'm just going to constrain the origins, YZ to YZ, XZ to XZ, XY to XY. I can minimize that one. Now we'll bring in the backing plate. And I'll just put that there. So this is where it starts to get a bit tricky. So what I've got to do here is connect that to this face, but you can see it's kind of on an angle because it's a bit of sheet metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of these bits open, and I'm going to reopen that work plane that that face sits on. Then I'm going to constrain this side to this side as a mate, and I will do a center constraint from the center of this. So I'm just picking up on this edge, should just pick up on the axis here, and then I should better find the center axis there. So there's the center axis. Apply. And now I've got to do the angular, well, I can just constrain these planes together. So I'll pick that one, and I can even pick just the face of this if I want. And there we go. So now it can't rotate around. Now what we want to do is we're going to I'll keep this plane on because I may need it. And I'm going to place the wrapping part there. So what I'm going to do is constrain this surface to that plane here. Actually, no, yep, that's what I'll do. And I should be able to constrain this axis to this axis, like so. And I should better flush up these faces. So you can see something I just realized I've done. So if you have a look at how it's together, it makes sense around there. But the overall size is going to be slightly wrong because that's pushed inside. So just because it has to join in this bit and on that bit, it's kind of a bit tricky. So I've actually got to go back into this one and just make it about 8mm bigger. So I've got to check this work plane and edit dimension. So we've got 584, so we really want 592. And I can just go up to return. And I'll turn off that plane because I don't need it anymore. Just find what one it is. It looks like it's on this main transition here. Turn that one off. Now I can put the outer part on it. So I'll place the face. And I'll constrain that with a mate that way to that way. Apply. And I'll do the same thing with this axis here. So I'll grab this edge and I'll grab this edge. Now it's centrally constrained, and I'll do the same as I did before, flush. So flush to flush. There we go. Now, last things last, we've got to chuck the tiny little squared around on there. Well, it's still big, but not compared to this one. We'll place the exit squared around. And what you'll find is, because it's in a sheet metal mode, these edges, it won't be exactly flat, because in reality, when you fold it, it's going to be, there's going to be a slight angle on that, and you can see like the bend comes down and everything as well. So the best way to go about that is to just minimize a couple of things, and we'll use the origin of that one. So I'll constrain that bottom face. So if we have a quick look at that, it's sort of cuts across the corner, but that's fine. And I'll mate that to this face here. And I'll just have a look. It's gone round the other way, so I'll just go change that to flush. That's a bit better. Apply that. Now I'll go back to flush. I'll go to flush, and this face to this line. I should be able to. No, I'll do this line here. This line, so that works in mate mode. There. And I'll do the same thing over here. So I'll turn that around so we can see what's going on. Do that line to that line. Right, close out of that. Right, so we can see what's going on there. So if I really want to be fussy, which I do, I want this to be a fillet weld around this whole edge of this piece. So from where that starts to where that finishes. So I'm going to double click on this and just get in a good view. Then I'm going to start a sketch. And I'm going to open up the origin here. Pick the plane going across. Right click, slice the graphics. Then I'm just going to draw a rectangle from the center. Excuse me. I'll change this to a 2-point rectangle. I'll go center. And I'll just go to the outside or just past it. Doesn't really matter that much. And I'll do 8mm here. And I have to come back, and this will be, I'll just say 1600. Doesn't matter if it goes over. Finish that sketch, and I'm going to go cut that shape through both ways. Now if I go minimize all this, tidy it up, if I return to this drawing, you're going to see that now I have an open corner that I could weld, and all the way around there as well, all the way around to that side, and then it closes up. So if I have another look at this part here and I create a flat pattern, it should have a bit of a step in it. Here's your step, looking at front on, 8mm step there. So that would just make it better for welding. And there we have the blower. So also, last thing I'll do is I'll just rotate it to the same view as they have it. And I will right click here and set current view as home, fit to view. And I'll make sure I save this assembly. And that's that one.